What's up guys, welcome back to On the Brick with another LEGO review. Today I have for you all three sets in the new helmet series. When I first saw these sets, I wasn't really too interested in them. I thought they were a little overpriced for what they were, but even then the Boba Fett still looked really interesting, and so with some hesitation I decided to go and pick him up. And here he is. I will admit he's a little smaller than I thought he would be, but they still did a really good job. The colors on this are incredibly accurate, and they managed to get a lot of detail into this tiny thing, including being able to move the antenna up and down. But in all seriousness, here's the actual build. Boba Fett is set number 75277, and it is the smallest of the three sets at only 625 pieces, but just like the other two, this set does retail for $59.99. But what I was jokingly saying about the minifig helmet actually holds true for this set as well. I do think they did a really good job at getting the details down. They did a really good job at getting the angles down as well, which you can see as we take a look around the set here. I also really like how they included the little dent in the top of his helmet. They included these bars on the side as well, even the smooth sections on both sides of the visor and on the back, and of course the visor itself is really well done. Now, one of the other things that they did a really good job on was this antenna. As you can see, it can come down pretty easily. It's actually a really simple mechanism. It works super smoothly every time, never gets caught. If you look closely, you can see it's just on a single hinge piece. That's all it is, but it works really well. If we look at the back here, again, it's super smooth. This is actually one of my favorite parts of this build just because of how nice it is. They did a really good job at capturing the angle of the visor here. It's actually made in 3 different sections, technically 4, but I really like how this comes together. There's only a tiny gap in between some of them, but the final product looks really good. The TIE Fighter pilot helmet is set number 75274, and it is the biggest of the 3 at 724 pieces. This is actually my second favorite of the 3 just because I really love how this thing looks like when it's done. It's incredibly well done as well. Just like with Boba Fett, they did a really good job at capturing the actual profile of a TIE Fighter pilot. I look at this thing, I know what I'm looking at. Obviously, one of the more noticeable aspects of this build are these hoses on the front, and these rings are all actual individual pieces that you put onto it. Another thing of note is that the center of the mouthpiece here are printed pieces, but the edges are stickers, and these 2 logos on the top of the helmet are also printed pieces. I love how smooth this build is. When you look at it dead on, you barely see any studs, and of course there's the whole smooth band going across the top of the helmet. I also want to say that even though the builds between all 3 helmets were pretty identical on the inside, this one was pretty different on the outside, even compared to the Stormtrooper, and I just really like that. It made for a very interesting build that wasn't boring at all, despite basically using just black pieces. Speaking of the Stormtrooper, it is set number 75276 and is barely bigger than Boba Fett at 647 pieces. Now, this is actually my least favorite of all 3 builds. It's one that, to be honest, I only got to complete the collection of them, and even though it's not necessarily bad per se, it did leave me a little unsatisfied. Now, maybe it was because I built this one last, and it had very similar build to the TIE Pilot, but there are just some things about this build that I don't particularly like, even things that worked on the other sets. The biggest thing for me is the amount of studs that are showing. Then when you look at the TIE Pilot, you don't really see any studs. This, you just see a ton of them. The eyes really stand out here, even though they blend in really well to the TIE Pilot, and it doesn't look as smooth as the other 2 do, especially on the bottom. Now, like I said, this does have the same eyes as the TIE Pilot, which makes sense. They're from the same army, and just like the TIE Pilot, the center here is not stickers while the edges are, but unlike the TIE Pilot, this one's just a little too jaggy, a little too rough, and has just too many holes in it for my liking. Like here on the back and underneath the eye, there are these gaps between it and the other pieces that for me is just really noticeable. And I did want to compare it to Boba Fett because it's actually my biggest problem with that set as well. As you can see here, both of them have a lot of exposed studs, and I'm not really a fan of that. Boba Fett does have the visor in the front that at least adds some smoothness when you look on it directly on. It's also got these smooth things on the side. The back is entirely smooth, and yeah, you do see some studs there, but like the base itself on all three of them is really smooth, and so you can see like there is the smoothness going on here, even the side here as well. I don't know why they didn't just add like a 2x3 tile here. It would have been fine and just added to the aesthetic in my opinion, but the Stormtrooper just doesn't have anything like that. You have the eyes and a bit of the mouse guard, and that's really it. Outside of that, it's all just studs. And yes, the sign does continue to fall off my Boba Fett for some reason. It only happens to that one and none of the other ones. Now in contrast, you have the TIE Fighter pilot helmet, which when you look at it from the back, yeah, it has a ton of studs, but when you look at it dead on, just look how smooth this thing is. You see maybe 8 or 9 studs in total, most of them just on that mouthpiece there. And yeah, you see some on top, but it's really just, when you're looking at it from the front, you don't see it. It's only when you turn it to the side that all of a sudden there's just all these exposed studs. And I get that to make these fully flat or tiled would add so many extra pieces and raise the price a lot, so I understand why it wasn't done, but it's just the reason that I personally don't enjoy the Stormtrooper as much as I do these other two. Because yes, it's a little unreasonable, but I think that this smooth aesthetic that was clearly in their minds when they were making these just falls flat with that Stormtrooper. Again, it's not necessarily bad, it's just that in my opinion, it's my least favorite. And here's a quick shot from the side where you can see something I kind of forgot to mention, where all those lines on the bottom of the Stormtrooper helmet are all stickers. There's actually 4 on each side. But at the end of the day, I'm really happy with Boba Fett, I'm really happy with the Stormtrooper pilot, and I'm okay with the regular Stormtrooper, who at least he completes the set. Now for the $60 asking price, you are absolutely getting your money's worth. All 3 of these are more pieces than that really entails, and they are really big, they look really good. Even the Stormtrooper, who I'm not that much of a fan of, still looks really good in the end. So if you like it, if you were thinking of getting one of these, I would highly recommend it, if you can find them of course, because it was a little bit of a trouble to find these, but I'm sure as time goes on you'll be able to pick them up just fine, and if you want to, I would say go for it. It's absolutely worth it. And I really hope that in the future we get to see more of these. I know that when you look on the box, these 3 specifically were done because it's the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back, but I hope in the future we get to see more sets from different characters, especially from like the prequel trilogy. I think that they could do a ton of clone troopers with this, and I'll be honest, I'll probably buy them all if they do. But let me know what your thoughts on these sets are in the comments down below. Did you like them? Did you pick them up? Did you not like the Stormtrooper as much as I did? Or was I just completely wrong? Whatever it is, just let me know in the comments down below. Go ahead and hit the like button if you liked it. Remember to subscribe if you want to see more, and ring the bell so you know anytime I upload. Thank you for watching. Really quick, I do just want to say that unfortunately the Clone Wars set that I had planned for Tuesday still hasn't come in yet, so it's probably going to be pushed back until next week. But on the topic of The Empire Strikes Back, I do have another exciting set from that movie that LEGO has never released, so if you want to see that, I'll see you on Tuesday.